$800. I paid $800 for the G-Shock Mudmaster GWG-B1000. And it was worth it because this premium Master of G-Shock has exactly what you need and want from a G-Shock watch. It is premium. My first impressions when opening this was wow. Okay, it really sets itself apart from other G-Shocks, and for the longest time, you guys were telling me to get it. And $800 was a pretty high hurdle for me. It took me quite a while to save up to get it. Okay, and now I can see why, for so many of you, this is an exit watch. This is the one where after you buy it, you're through buying any more G-Shocks. You found it. And, you know, not that a lot of you actually stop buying additional G-Shocks, but if you could have one, this would be it. Okay, I can see why you guys feel that way. And let me tell you something, the price has gone up. I think it's like $880 now. The prices are going up, and the availability of some of these is going down. All right, already the Mudmaster GWG-B1000 that has the red cranberry colored band is already sold out. It's unavailable. So you have this original black one, the GWG-B1000-1A, I think. And then you have the one with the green. And then you have the MEC version, which is the emergency colors, okay? And so several different models to choose from. I give this 5 stars, okay? Because this is really engineered to a higher standard than, you know, your basic G-Shocks. That's why it costs more. Whether it's worth it to you, I'll go over what I like about it. And there's a few things that I don't, okay? And you know, I'll let you guys know what you're in for to know, based on this review, whether the G-Shock Mudmaster GWG-B1000 is for you. Now, first off is the metal. All right? The actual case is plastic. Let me get my pointer pen, the Right in the Rain pen. But you can see that the actual case is plastic, and G-Shock will do this for a lot of their watches to reduce weight, and also for shock resistance, which is what G-Shock is all about, shock resistance. Now, to make the watch more durable, certain parts of this watch are metal, okay? So you can see that this bezel is metal, all right? Features of the watch that kind of ensconce the case are metal. And it's chiseled metal, meaning that the points are sharp. This isn't a smooth, chamfered watch. It's not like polished and sanded. The edges are all sharp, okay? Now, the dogs are metal. And the dogs are what I call this feature that holds down the bezel. It's metal, okay? These side panels are plastic. You can see how I scratched it up. The buttons are metal. All right. See those scratches? I did that with this Leatherman with a magnet cut steel in a previous video to prove to myself that they are metal. The button shrouds are metal. All right. And of course, you guys saw my video where I pushed in this light button, and the light button is metal. It's brass shrouds, brass colored shroud goes in with the button, which alarmed me at first, but the actual shroud, I suppose, is this feature here, which is metal, okay? So you can see right there that all these premium metal features kind of set it apart. It says that this Mudmaster is built for durability, and it definitely has that. Now, I've been wearing it to work. I have a job in the oil field, and so I've subjected this to quite a bit of abuse. Quite a few environmental hazards, including cryogenic liquid nitrogen. All right, I strapped this to a steel pipe through which liquid nitrogen was flowing at negative 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And I turned on the thermometer. See temp down there? Turned on the thermometer and watched as the thermometer reading plummeted and then went blank. So I brought it below the lowest that the thermometer could read, and then I took the watch off of that pipe and let it warm up. And after warming up, the thermometer came back, and as far as I can tell, the other sensors work still, all right? And in an upcoming video, we will do more to test the sensors of the Mudmaster. Okay, the Time Bomb was asking me how accurate the sensors are. Now, in general, all of the G-Shock watches that have these ABC sensors, which is altimeter, barometer, and compass, such as the Rangeman has an ABC sensor. See, it says triple sensor. And there is the port through which the sensor gauges the atmospheric pressure. And the same thing on the Mudmaster, GWG-B1000, but you can see that a little more protection offered for the sensor than on the Rangeman, GW9400. And yes, the Mudman, GW9500, is an ABC sensor watch, as well as a number of Pro-Treks. Okay, now look at all those watches that I just showed you the sensor. They have plastic guards, and you can kind of look inside and see what's on the other side of the outside plastic guard. But then when you look at the Mudmaster, you can see that in metal. So some more protection there. But anyways, the ABC sensors of all these watches are need to be calibrated. They need to be set, and from day to day, they will change due to the climate and the weather, and whether you're traveling. All sorts of factors will affect how accurate the reading is. So you're going to need to calibrate these, right? The advantage of the Mudmaster with the app is that with Bluetooth, the Mudmaster can connect to your phone, and through the app, it can calibrate your altitude. Okay, so there is some calibration of these sensors available through the app. All right, and then there's functionality that over and above what you'll get out of these other G-Shock watches with the sensors, because with the app, the Mudmaster can use the GPS on your phone. Okay, and so on the mission log, which I tested in Carlsbad, New Mexico, you can get keep track of your hike or whatever activity you're engaged in outdoors, and we'll track the mileage that you've hiked, as well as your altitude gain and descent, and you'll see readouts of your journey. Now, there's no heart rate monitor on this, but you still have that. And with a compass, you can set waypoints, and in the compass mode, the seconds hand will point north, and this subdial, which is pretty shiny, will point back to a waypoint. And I think the waypoint is still in Carlsbad. So the seconds hand is pointing north, and the subdial is pointing towards Carlsbad. Okay, and so there's a lot of functionality here, and I've not tested it all. Okay, so stay tuned for upcoming videos in which I will use the track back through the compass with a waypoint, because I didn't get it to work on that hike that we did in Carlsbad. And yes, I did go down in the cave, and so I got an altitude reading into the cave. So you can watch that video if you're interested in seeing how the mission log performed. But mission log is a feature that you're going to need the Bluetooth connection to your Casio watches app to get the most out of the functionality of the Mudmaster. Now, I know what some of you are saying. You're like, oh, I do not want a G-Shock with Bluetooth. I do not want the app. And I understand that, okay? If you are that way, can you use the Mudmaster without the Bluetooth? And the simple answer is yes. You could get the Mudmaster GWG-B1000, no Bluetooth, slap it on your wrist, and it will work, okay? You'll still have the ABC sensors, and you'll have all the watch features. And if you enter in your coordinates, your GPS coordinates, you can take advantage of the sunrise and sunset feature. All right. So there's a lot that the Mudmaster can be used for without the Casio watches app, if you did not want to hook it up. But I will tell you this: when the Mudmaster first came out, there was a bug in the software that had to do with the automatic multiband 6 time acquisition at midnight, and it required a connection in order to download software that would fix that bug. Okay. And so that was an unfortunate thing, because those who are saying, what's the big deal about Bluetooth? If you don't want to use it, then don't. Well, in the Mudmaster, to fix that bug, you had to connect it. Now, I believe that bug was fixed because when I took it out of the box, the time was synced up by the Bluetooth, and you can see how often, excuse me, I say Bluetooth. The time was synced up via Multiband 6. Okay, and you can see that by going to the received time. You can see that today, October 10th at 1:03 a.m., this watch automatically synced the time to Multiband 6. Okay, and so as far as I could tell, it did that coming out of the box. Now, so if you did not want to use the app and you wanted to set up that up, I think that you do that with the Subdial here. You unscrew it and pull it out and see auto receive on or off. And so I believe it worked. But for the purpose of the channel, after an initial period of just using the watch without the Bluetooth, I did hook it up to the Bluetooth because I wanted to make like tutorial videos on how to use all the functionality. And so if you're dead set against Bluetooth on your G-Shock, and I understand completely that you might be that way, you want a standalone watch, the GWG-9500, the Mudman, has no Bluetooth at all. And you can see this one's dead. I think I have a couple. I have another one. This is the emergency yellow Mudman. But you can see that it has the multiband. The old Rangeman, the GW-9400, has that multiband 6. And so do all of the Protreks whose model number begins with PRW. Okay, and any of these watches, when you see that W at the beginning, it's an indication that you have multiband 6, also known as the wave scepter. And so, like in the United States and Japan and in I believe most of Europe, that the watch will sync to a time broadcasted by terrestrial radio, which I think is like WVVB in Colorado in the United States. But it's a really cool feature. I love it. It's one of my favorite features on a G-Shock, but for some reason they don't always put it in all of their watches. Some watches do not have that, like the Gravity Master does not have that multiband 6, but the Gravity Master, this is the new version of the Gravity Master, the most recent iteration of Gravity Master, does not have the multiband 6. It does have Bluetooth. Okay, now for me personally, there are some problems with syncing up the time via the app. Casio G-Shock just does not understand time zones. Okay, I live on the edge of the central time zone here in West Texas, and the oil field goes into eastern New Mexico. It's part of the Permian/Delaware Basin. And so when we go to an oil well in New Mexico, I always keep my watch and the time on my phone set to Texas time, okay? Because it's a huge pain in the neck to deal with the mountain time in eastern Mexico. I stay on central time. Most people do. And it can be really confusing. And for that reason, I always want my time to be my home terminal time, which is Texas time, central time zone. Okay. And I will figure out what the local time is. That's been my policy since I first started driving over the road as a trucker. I was a mover, drove all across the continental United States as a mover. Back, I guess it's like almost 20 years ago now. It was a long time, 15, 20 years ago. Anyways, it's always been my policy. I do not want my timing device to automatically change the main time based on the time zone. And so that's a huge problem with the Casio Watches app. And so I've turned off the Bluetooth automatic time sync for that reason. But that's a subject for a different video. I want to stay on track reviewing the Mudmaster, okay? So the Sapphire, the glass is Sapphire. And that's what a lot of people want. A lot of guys, like, will look at the Mudman, see those scratches? That's from concrete. Someone was wearing this watch and just smashed the watch and wrist and all into a wheelbarrow full of concrete, and then like scraped it through the concrete, and then when it was totally covered in concrete, took his thumb and just wiped the screen with the concrete. Okay, you'll never guess who it was. But I published that video of me doing that, and a lot of people said I was an idiot. I was going to scratch it up, and I did. Okay, see all those scratches? It cost me the ability to sell this watch to Renee. When he saw all the scratches, Renee collapsed like the guys in Star Trek do whenever the Romulans shoot the USS Enterprise with one of their, torpedoes or whatever. He fell down like the Star Trek guys. But anyways, there's still concrete all over the Mudman. So it's mud resist. Is it concrete resist? Yeah, still works. Still works pretty well. And so I love the Mudman. Now the Mudmaster, compared to the Mudman, is a more premium watch. You have a 3-hand dial. So you have the hour hand, the minute hand, and a seconds hand. So not all G-Shock anti-digi watches have a second hand. Okay. This is the Fine Metallic series. I think it's pretty cool. This is like the 2100 series watch. There's a Pro Trek. The Gravity Master is a 3-hand watch. And so there's more that goes into the watch mechanism to be impact resistant, like all G-Shock should, and have a second hand. And so that you're paying a premium. In the other G-Shock watches that will have no seconds hand, the seconds tick away on the LCD subdial. Okay, and so you have to pay more for the Sapphire glass. And Casio G-Shock charges a lot more for the Sapphire glass. And I don't know all the reason for that. They may have to get a certain thickness of Sapphire glass to make sure that the whole watch is impact resistant as a G-Shock should. And that makes the cost go up way more than when another watch brand adds a Sapphire. Like a lot of cheap watches online, you'll see will have Sapphire glass and may not be as thick. This is my Promaster Land U822, the GV001 watch, and it has Sapphire. So these two are going head to head. There's actually a new Citizen very similar to this one that came out that has a few different features. I have to get my hands on that particular Citizen watch. But anyways, anti-digi watches, or as Citizen calls it, combination watches with Sapphire glass. Okay, which one is better between the two of these? Stay tuned, because I'll make a video putting these head to head, and maybe I'll just smash them together to see which one is actually tougher. Is Sapphire glass as strong as they say it is? It's scratch resistant, but is it impact resistant? Stay tuned for that video. The review of the Mudmaster continues. So yes, stay tuned for the upcoming video where we'll test the ABC sensors on all these Casio watches. We'll find a benchmark. We'll hold it close to the benchmark, calibrate it to the benchmark, and then see how long the watch stays calibrated. Same thing with the barometer and the compass. I have a nice Silva compass that we'll compare it to. Okay, but anyways, who was it? Racing Cars Off Road. I forget his name. He asked about the Subdial, whether it was too shiny, and I recently made a video where when I first saw this watch when it first came out, I did think that how shiny these two subdials are could be distracting. And actually having it in my hands, it's not that distracting. I haven't like had an issue with being able to read the hands. And you can see on my particular model, the hands have kind of like this yellow patina with a bright white outline, okay? And so I found the legibility be pretty good. The indices have kind of a muted color, but they're 3D. And so the advantage of analog watches is that at all sorts of angles, you can acquire the time at a glance. You know, if you know how to read an analog watch, just based on the shape of the hands. So you really don't need all of the indices to have a number, right? And so it's one of those things you can see at a glance. Now I'll just give you a preview of the comparison between these two. Like all of the indices in the hands on the Citizen Promaster are whiter than white. It's really amazing. In broad daylight, it's like brilliant. And so G-Shock loves to go with muted earth colors on the face of their watches. So not all of their watches have really outstanding legibility. It's just something that they do at G-Shock. And so like this particular watch, the Gravity Master, is meant to have high legibility because it's meant to be for a pilot. And so this dial is meant to give you the like look like an instrument in a cockpit of a aircraft, right? So the legibility of this one is pretty good. And so the Mudmaster, being one of those watches that you're supposed to wear through the mud, it has more muted tones. However, overall, I find the legibility be good, very good, especially with the shape of the hands and the distinctive shape of the hour hand, okay? Now, the Lume is pretty good. Even the little shape on the seconds hand is loomed, and at the end of each indice is loomed. So the Lume on this is is the best that I've seen out of a G-Shock. Now I haven't bought like a more premium G-Shock to see what that Lume is like, but compared to like, you know, a one of these 2100 Casio watches. Let me see. Let me find another one. Like, you know, the Lume is kind of pathetic, honestly. You know, they don't really have like amazing Lume, but on the Mudmaster, it's pretty good. It lasts all night. And if you especially if you charge it up, if you purposefully charge it up, like I'll take this Lenleser W1R and just charge it up before I go to bed, and it'll definitely last me all night. It'll be very bright as I'm falling asleep, and it'll last all night. All right, and so if you just like jump in bed without purposefully charging up, you'll still be able to make it out pretty faint, but overall good. Okay, so Lume's good. Now, compared to other watches, you have illumination. So the LCD with one press of this button is illuminated, and there's an LED that shines down on the analog watch face. Okay, and so that's always an option to read the watch, and it's really good. Okay, the button for the illumination is good, and it's pretty bright. Now, can you use it as a flashlight? Not really. I mean, in a pinch, if you had to, you probably could, but I wouldn't categorize it as a flashlight. Okay. And so the buttons are all mud resistant. So they have this type of gasket system where when you're pushing the buttons, there's like a stem on the end of the button that pushes through the case, and there's like a double gasket system, and then that's what pushes the button inside the module that elicits a response. Okay, and so that's how G-Shock achieved that mud resistance, and that's the system that the Rangeman GW-9400 used a few years back when this watch came out. All right, and so like apparently these buttons are metal. I called them plastic in another video, and I was corrected. All right, so the buttons are metal, and they have like this diamond. What do they call it? The diamond, not knurling, but the stippling. But anyways, on the Rangeman, I believe that this is the watch that introduced that system where it achieved mud resistance with the gasket system. However, they do not advertise mud resistance on the Rangeman GW-9400 anymore. Did they ever? I don't know. Maybe it was one of those Mandela effects. But with the advent of the Mudman, they advertise mud resistance, and they have that gasket system. And so the Mudmaster has that. That's how it achieves mud resistance. And it also has metal buttons, metal shrouds. So it's really durable. All right. Now, the thing is that in an upcoming video, we have to explore the topic that has to do with what is better for mud resistance. This is the King, the GXW-56BB, and it does not have that gasket system. It just has like a case all around the watch with a little bit of movement available on the outer case that you can press the button that's inside that case. So that I don't think there's actually a gasket system inside the King, the GX56, all right? And so which one is more mud resistant? Well, in theory, the King should be, because there's no gap around the button, right? There are gaps around the button of the Mudmaster, okay? So in theory, the King should have better mud resistance. However, I would point out that when you turn the King over, you see that outer case ends up having a gap on the back. And so could mud get in there and into the case? The Mudmaster does not have that, right? And look at that back. It has this really cool like angles to the sides of the case back, which is metal. Okay, it's a metal case back that achieves like this chamfer on the side with various angles, kind of like you'd sharpen a like a chisel or a knife to different angles, like different bevels. It's a really nice touch, and so it's not as flat on the sides. So the comfort's really good on the Mudmaster. Now, there's a whole bunch of different Mudmasters, all right? And some of you gentlemen are G-Shock OGs, and you're all about the older Mudmasters, okay? Particularly the War Machine, as Termit calls it, the GWG-1000. Now, I should make a video comparing all of the different Mudmasters. I only have one Mudmaster, and the other Mudmasters are sold out. Well, two of them. The GWG-1000 is not available on gshock.com anymore. And the both the GWG-1000 and 2000 are not available on G-Shock anymore. The GGB-100, there's some of the models are sold out. And then there's a few other Mudmasters. So they use the Mudmaster name to several different of these Master of G analog watches, all right? But this is the most premium of all of them, okay? But still, some OGs say that the previous iterations are better. And so we have to put them head to head. Now, I will say that without owning the other ones, that this one is a little bit smaller in its dimensions, which is good. You guys know that I work on a lot of diesel equipment, and a watch like the Mudman, for me, is the perfect size. It's big enough to be really durable, but small enough that, like, if I'm reaching in, like say that I'm greasing the Zerks on the brakes, you know, on the drive tires of a tractor trailer truck, not a lot of room to do that. They do not leave a lot of room on tractor trailers to reach in there and grease Zerks, right? And so the Mudman is a very good size. Very good size. You can still reach in there. Now, the King is not such a good size. Pretty big. Neither is the Rangeman GPR H1000. Pretty thick. The Mudmaster is bigger than the Mudman, okay? Because it needs more room for those analog, the capstan, the analog spindle, whatever you call it. That analog face needs more depth, okay? But this particular Mudmaster is not as big as as the GWG-1000 or the GWG-2000. And so it's easier to reach into places. It feels less like a, like the meatball effect is what I call it. Or Tim Johnson has that, his own advanced algorithm. He calls it the chunkiness factor. Very advanced algorithm. It has, 2 variables, which fries my brain. I can only deal with like 1 variable, maybe half a variable at a time. 2 variables, way too much for my IQ, which, as we've said before, is a high IQ, high double-digit IQ. Anyways, the Mudmaster may fit a small wrister better than the other Mudmasters because it's smaller, okay? And we're talking about the watch crotch, which is my term for the distance between, not the lugs, not the lug to lug, but between where the watch goes down. The Mudmaster watch crotch is smaller than a lot of other watches. Bigger than most G-Shocks, but still smaller than those watches that have big watch crotches, which are the Rangeman GW9400 and the King, the GW56, or in my case, the GXW56BB. Okay, and so the fit. This is big enough to fit my wrist, 8.5 inches. I wear it on notch 1 or 2 on the end, depending on the weather and how active I am. Because if you're big, once you get moving, it's like your wrist grows extra. Okay, and so if I'm out there working a lot, I'm going to have it on notch 1. If I wake up and it's cold, I'll have it on notch 2. Okay, so it's a good option for a big wrister. I think that 8.5 inches is probably the limit. But it's a good watch for a big wrister, and from what I heard, small wristers enjoy wearing it too. Okay, so it's the best of both worlds. Small wristers and big wristers can get a lot out of the Mudmaster GWG-B1000. That's another reason why it's a 5-star watch. Okay, and so we have all these premium features, and the wings. Okay, so the wings are like more diminutive than the wings on the Mudman, okay? And so you have these plastic wings, these hard plastic wings that kind of take up the corners inside the watch crotch. And I have not had much of a problem with it pulling hairs. The Mudman did give me some problems at first, and so maybe all those hairs are pulled off, but it's still much better than, say, the ProTrek PRW 3500, which is like wearing a tiny little alligator on your wrist that has an insatiable appetite for arm hair. That's the way that these wings are, and a lot of these simple like paddle style wings, very uncomfortable. The wings on this I think are pretty good. They do have like a bevel on the edge and a little bit of a channel for for the sweat to flow through. So the comfort on this Mudmaster is good, okay? Now, even though the Mudman is my favorite watch, the comfort is not great. I don't like the Mudman because of its comfort. I like the Mudman because of its durability, okay? And so I do find the comfort level to be better on the Mudmaster because they added some angles here. It's much smoother on this wing than on the Mudman. You can see how it's pretty brutal, the wing on the Mudman, and it's more refined on the Mudmaster. Okay, now is it still durable? Well, I don't think it's as durable because you can see that the hard plastic shrouds all the way around this band, prevents these screws from moving in the center lug. And so the durability of the Mudman, I think, is better. And I'm getting way off base here because the purpose of this video is not to compare the two. And inevitably I do, because the Mudman being my favorite watch, I end up comparing it to everything. If I ever bought a Rolex, I would still hold it side by side to a Mudman. But anyways, the Mudmaster, loses. I've not tested it. I mean, I've put this on the tester with a Watch Bopper 5000. And of course, having that metal dogs, the metal dogs did damage some of the Watch Bopper 5000. You can watch that video. And you can look, I don't know if it's still there. Yeah, you can see where the dogs left an imprint in the Watch Bopper. And a while ago, you could see it says G-Shock. That's from the Mudman. There's the relief of the word G-Shock in there from the Watch Bopper, from these G-Shocks being bopped by the Watch Bopper 5000. So, very durable. All right, now downsides. You guys want to know the downsides, and I've waited well into this video before I admit to there being any downsides at all to the Mudman GWG-B1000. The metal dogs, I do not like them. I would prefer plastic dogs. Okay? And so, let me just find the first Mudman I got. You can see that these dogs, you know, are like rounded off, dinged up, used, abused, chipped away. I think there's a chip right here. It's like, it reminds me of some of your guys' teeth, how abused it is, how much corrosion and chips there are and scratches. Okay? I like the plastic dogs because when you look at the watch and you're like, oh, look how much damage it took. Well, yeah, but what was on the other side, right? Look at all the scratches here on this dogs. Like this can catch, right? I should make a video where I just take like dental floss and just show you that, you know, you can get the floss under these metal dogs. The floss will break, right? Because of how sharp these edges are in the dogs. Now, the thing is, what's on the other side? What caused this? Was it Shane's pickup truck? Like I'm walking by the truck, you know, moving my arms and then scraping up someone's paint on their vehicle? You know, I told you about how I operate oil-filled equipment. You know, am I dinging and scratching stuff up with these dogs? Well, you can see that if these hard metal dogs have scratches on the edges, something was scratched along the way to cause that. Right? And so, as tough as the metal dogs are, and as durable as it makes the watch, you got to remember that it's going to cause damage. All right? Like if you're like in one of those fancy like homes, taking a tour of a home, you know, like an old historic home, and you just like, and you are big, and you just walk through a door jamb, and you scrape like the door jamb. You know, the Historical Preservation Society of that town is going to put a warrant out for your head, okay? And do not think that historical preservation societies do not have that power. You will find that historical preservation societies are some of the most powerful and militant organizations in the United States. And you might think, oh, no big deal, I just scraped up a door jamb. Well, you scraped up a door jamb on a historic house, okay? You scrape through wood that, you know, when you know how wood has like rings, and each ring is a year. It's like your watch scraped through years, 1642 and 1640. You scraped the Pilgrim's house. You were touring a house in Pilgrim Plantation. You're like, relax. I thought this was just historical reenactment. Like, no, this is an actual house by, you know, Miles Standish, and his ghost is gonna, you know, level off a musket at you, and I don't know. Anyways, the point is that these dogs take a bite out of stuff, they scrape stuff, and so as cool as it looks, as tough as it makes the watch, a little bit impractical, okay? And so the first Mudman had a plastic bezel and then plastic dogs, right? Now, the plastic bezel got warped. Remember, I got the feeler out and I determined that it was 1 1/128 of an inch off at the 12 o'clock position versus right under the dog. You guys remember that? Everybody who had OCD bookmarked that video. Well, G-Shock made the Mudman with a metal bezel, but still kept the plastic dogs, okay? And I think that the metal dogs on the Mudmaster are a little too much. You may not think so. You may gleefully run through a parking lot like with abandon. like oblivious to what you're scratching up along the way. You may be like that. You may not care, but for the rest of us, you know, it's a consideration. Okay. At the end of this video, I'll move the camera over to I have a metal shelf over here, and I will scrape up my metal shelf a little bit in the video, but I still have to tell you some other things I don't like, which I'm not a huge fan of the metal keeper. Okay. And so I don't have a desk job. I don't have to worry about this scratching up a laptop or a desk, but you can see how many scratches I already got. The metal keeper pinches. What happens when you have it on, and so you'll have it on, and the keeper will be keeping, but it'll be moving a little bit. And when it goes like that, and hits the buckle, it can pinch your flesh. So you can see that I have some pinch marks on my flesh. All right, but it does look cool. I cannot deny it looks cool. And so I prefer the just a regular plastic resin keeper like on the Mudman. That's my preference, but G-Shock, knowing their business, knows that most guys love that metal keeper. So on premium watches, they put that metal keeper. And so if you are a lover or a hater of the metal keeper, the Mudmaster has the metal keeper. And I guess after you get the G-Shock metal keeper callus on your wrist, it's not such a big deal. You can enjoy the looks, but the buckle's really nice. The buckle has 2 tangs, holds the watch really nicely. This strap is a nice material, very rugged, very durable material, but still has a little bit of flexibility, but not as much flexibility as the band from the Rangeman Gen 3. You can see how much flexibility is here, which is a similar flexibility as on the GWG-B1000, which is my favorite band. This is the most comfortable G-Shock watch. You know, it has all of these channels to create rivulets of sweat, which makes it into a very comfortable watch, and it's stretchy. Okay, now you saw how stretchy the GWG-B1000 was. This has a little bit of stretch, just a little bit, and these notches are pretty close together, so you can kind of dial in the fit pretty well. Okay, and so, oh, sorry, that's the wrong watch. Let me tug it again, because I may have tugged the wrong one. All right, yeah, you can see a little bit of flexibility. All right, so I think the comfort's pretty good, and the band is durable and comfortable. Okay, not all watches have extremely comfortable bands. Some watches, like the regular Casios, like can get kind of scratchy, and it's just not as good, you know. So the other thing that I do not like. Let me go over the list of what I do not like, because I do like this watch a lot. I'd give it 5 stars. This is like a super premium G-Shock watch. It's my review, 5 stars. Even though there are problems. I mean, I gave the GWG-B1000 5 stars, but it was like actually like I think 4.2, but I rounded up just to be able to say, hey, I give this 5 stars. All right, and so the thing is that, like, I don't like the time zone, the whole time zone thing. Like, it just really bothers me. You guys don't understand the way that, and let me explain it a little bit better. The app, the Casio Watches app on your phone will determine what time zone you're in, then will change the time. Okay? There's no clear boundary marker, like in reality, as to a time zone or any political jurisdiction. When I'm out in the oil field, I'm standing like in the middle of nowhere. The only thing that's around me are pump jacks and oil rigs. There's nothing that says this one is in New Mexico, this one is in Texas. So I just want my devices, my timing devices, to stay on Texas time, my home terminal time, right? And so that's something that I don't like. The metal dogs and the metal keeper is not my favorite. I deal with it. So those are the things, right? And so and what I do like is I love how premium this watch is. All of these, the metal on it, all these metal parts, the look of it, like I love the hands. I love the legibility is good. This Lume is good. And you get that cool seconds hand, and then the functions. Now I'll make a video upcoming where I'll give a rundown I'll have a rundown of the Mudmaster GWG-B1000. We'll go through all the features. Now, there's a lot to that, so I personally have to test them all out. But I'll just do a quick rundown. So you have a main time, and from the main time screen, you can have different items displayed in the LCD subdial. So right now I have day of the week and date. You press this display button, and it's not an adjust button. In every other watch, or most of them on G-Shock, this top left button is for adjusting the time. This is done through the dial on the Mudmaster. So this is called the display button. And so this is the date with a small graph of the barometric pressure. And so the advantage of having an ABC G-Shock watch is that with that display showing you the barometric pressure, you can be warned of a sudden change in the weather, which happens frequently in West Texas. Like you can see, like if you're near Fort Stockton, like say you're out, in between Odessa and Fort Stockton, it's just spectacular. You can see huge storms form out in the horizon and just blow in, like epic storms, like with tornadoes and intense lightning. And it will form right before your eyes and blow in at you before the app on your phone can warn you about, starts beeping like crazy about the weather warnings. Like you will see it happen, okay? So having a barometer there, like say you have your back to which way the weather is forming, having that barometer there can clue you in because a sudden and really steep drop in barometric pressure means that a storm's moving in, okay? And so this is the digital display of the time, which can be useful. Like a lot of times, at my job, I'll have to make note of changes made to our activities, what we're doing. Like I pump liquid nitrogen, so you got to make note on the job report of whether you change the rate, whether you come online, offline, whether you change the output temperature, and so you need the exact time. And so a lot of these changes happen quickly, and so it is easier to have the digital display just to quickly jot down the time rather than trying to count the ticks in between the big indices, right? And so that's a cool feature. And so there's 3 of them there on the main time. So pressing the mode button, you can go through to barometer, okay? So other ABC sensor watches will have a dedicated barometer button, which is in the right side on the middle. But on the Mudmaster, there's a dial there. And so the barometer is placed into the cycle of all the different modes. Next is the temperature, which the sensor's right here, so it's going to read your arm. So if you want to know the atmospheric temperature where you're at, you're going to have to take your watch off. And then recall, this has to do with like your altitude. You make note of what your altitude is. And so this would be if you're hiking. Sunrise and sunset, really useful, especially if you're doing heavy haul, to know if you have a permit where you can only drive during in between sunrise and sunset. You know exactly when that's going to be, so you can route plan better. Stopwatch down to 1/100th of a second. And so I really like having that. Oh, and by the way, all these buttons you can press with a glove. That's their design, okay? And so I've tested that. You guys remember that short, the YouTube short, where I test all my watches with gloves. I wear impact gloves. I call them my gym-packed gloves to see which watches have buttons you can press. Because not all the G-Shock buttons are really easy to press with gloves on. Like your standard little metal buttons on the square, on the Casio. The G-Shock protects the buttons from accidental presses, but some of them like this are very difficult to get with gloves. But on the Mudmaster, there's just enough of a protrusion of the button outside the shroud that it's a balance between preventing accidental presses and allowing intentional presses with gloves. All right, timer. So the timer, this is another thing I guess I'm unhappy about. The timer only goes out to 1 hour, which is a shame. It's just really a shame. It's sad. The G-Shock would do that. 5 alarms and hourly chime, and the snooze alarm. And then you get world time, okay? So you guys out in Tokyo, what time is it for you right now? 1:18, all right? So shout out to everybody watching from Tokyo, and you can move the time along. And of course, what I would do if I were me is set the time, the second time zone to be, oh, you have to use a dial on this one. I would set it to be for Denver, the mountain time. That way, if I do go into the central time zone and I want to know what time is it in the central time zone, then I can... Oh, shout out to everybody in Mexico. You guys have a Corona beer collaboration watch. Me gusta cerveza, huh? Oh, I said it from Mexico. So you guys, I hope that you guys pick up that Corona watch. I'm going to make a video about it in Spanglish. I don't think it's available in the United States. And honestly, it's probably sold out. I think it just came out. But anyways, this is the time right now in New Mexico. So this is how I would want to know the second time zone would be to go to the world time function. Okay. It's unnecessary to automatically change my time based on the time zone. This is received. We looked at this earlier on in the video. So at 1 a.m. this morning, Multiband 6 synced the time of my Mudmaster to the time of the atomic clock in Colorado. And now we're back to the main time. Okay, so the compass has a dedicated button, and the altimeter has a dedicated button. All right, and so additional features. Well, this subdial on the left, I didn't mention it before, but when you're in altimeter mode, we'll show you whether you're going up or down based on wherever you reset the altimeter to. Okay, and I believe that that subdial does a similar thing for the barometer. If you're in the barometer function. So why don't I go to the barometer function and see what happens? Is it going to go to 0? Boom. Yeah, right there. So it'll tell you whether it's going up or down. The barometric pressure. Okay. And so another function is the mission log, which again, you need to do this in conjunction with the Casio Watches app. But once you get it started, it's recording your journey. Okay. And so that's a function. It's not intuitive how to get it started. Honestly, standing here right now recording this video, I forgot how to even get it going. So I am going to have to watch my own video about it to remember how to do it. And then the other function would be Waypoint, that you can record a waypoint, and with the app, this subdial on the right will point back to that location, and the LCD subdial will show you the linear distance to that location. Okay, so it's kind of like a trackback feature. Okay, now that we're nearly an hour into this video, I ought to mention that this is tough solar, okay, which is a huge selling point for so many guys buying a G-Shock. It's charged by the sun. You don't have anything to worry about. Like the Mudman's like that. The Rangeman's like that. This King is like that. Casio, this particular Casio Oak is not like that. This particular Casio is like that. This ProTrek is like that. This Casio is not solar. And this Gravity Master is solar. So some G-Shocks are solar, some are not. And I prefer solar. It like the watch just goes on and on. You never have to worry about it. And so there is a battery level indicator. Pressing the mode button, going back to the main time, that subdial on the left will briefly point to the battery level, which is high because I live in Texas, which has an intense amount of sun. Just ask my face. My face is like permanently purple because of the incessant sunburning I receive. All right. It's just one giant cancerous skin tumor. I'm only kidding. But it is like really beaten up from the sun. The advantage is that my watches are charged up, except for when I put them in the coffin. All right, Bill Hell calls this the coffin because it's where solar watches go to die. This one's dead. You guys remember when the king died and they brought him back to life? It took just a few hours of morning sunlight to bring the king back from the dead, and then I couldn't set the time or do anything until later than that. I guess about noon. It was like all the way back. Maybe it was 11 a.m. It was all the way back. So the Mudmaster, 5-star watch, $880 now. The price went up. The price is going up. And so I think it's a 5-star watch. Now, obviously, it costs a lot. It took me a long time to save up money to get this. But like I said, it's an exit watch for a lot of guys. Like, this is the perfect watch. You know, it's feature packed, metal, durable, solar charged watch, and it has that Bluetooth stuff if you want to use it. Maybe you don't, right? But unlike some of the other Mudmasters, it has sunrise and sunset and the ABC and everything. Okay, and so I recommend it. You know, if it's in your budget and you love G-Shocks and you love the anti-digi watches, you know, I recommend this one. 5 stars. I mean, I love the shape of the hands. I personally like this color, and I like how it stands out. I mean, like I said, I wish that the subdials weren't as shiny, and I wish that the dogs were plastic. Like, if the dogs are plastic, I'd probably give this like full 5 rather than rounding up to 5. Okay, so it does get a little bit of a ding for how much it scratches, but you get the sapphire glass, the metal, right? And just try it on. You know, you're gonna find that it fits really well. It's not like super comfortable. Like this fine metallic series watch is like unbelievably comfortable because it has like silicone on the inside, right? It's a little bit sweaty, and this is the most comfortable, but the Mudmaster is still comfortable, watch. But again, you have to lighten up a little bit on the comfort for durability, which the Mudmaster does have that durability. Like I said, I've been wearing it, testing it out, smashing it with a Watch Bopper 5000, and it's been holding up really well, okay? And so stay tuned because, like I said, we're going to test the ABC sensors. We're going to compare this to the Mudman, directly head-to-head to the Mudman, and we're also going to, Lord willing, if I can get some of the other Mudmasters, make a whole video comparing all of the Mudmasters, as well as putting this Mudmaster head to head with the Promaster Land U822. Where'd it go? I don't know. And then Watch Dude David was asking about the best 3-hand G-Shock watch. So that will be an upcoming video. We'll go through and see all of the available 3-hand G-Shock watches now. The Mudmasters, comparing all the Mudmasters. What is the master of Mudmasters? And there was one other thing. Oh yes, the positive MIP. There's some new MIP watches coming out. One of which is solar powered. Okay, so I already have some rants made for that one. Gentlemen, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through him. I'm Jim Kincaid. Thanks for watching.